Welcome back to Retro Rewire. My name is JJ. In the Hunt is the name of the game, and here we are within the stacks at the Fuji Mall, Surugaya. Now, before we hit it hard, you know it's coming, Retro Rewire game tours. If you're coming to Japan, book a tour. I'll leave a link in the description. I cover Akihabara as well as other areas of Japan, and I'm constantly updating new routes, new locations, so definitely get a hold of me. Again, I'll leave a link in the description. Hit me up, send me a message, and we'll get it done, and we're gonna hit it hard, and y'all know we're gonna have a great time. But here we are, the stacks. We got Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PS5, Famicom, and everything in between. Lots of great stuff to see here. And in the previous episode, we covered the showcase and all the monster goods that they had in stock, and it was kind of interesting to see the pricing. Now, for the pricing, I'm actually 50-50 because some of this stuff is low-hanging fruit, so you could expect to see a little bit higher prices. But there are still deals to be had, and sometimes saving time is going to be the biggest, money-saving thing. And then, keep in mind that with the weakening yen, of course, prices are going to go up, as well as, with like a demand for certain products. For example, here we have Sonic Generations, and we have Strider for the PS3, $56.80. Now, that price that I'm quoting includes a 10% sales tax. So if you're coming and you're visiting Japan, keep in mind that if you have your passport handy, you're going to save that 10% tax. Now, not all shops are tax-free, but definitely, do your homework and have that passport handy because you can save a little bit. $24.80 here for Shadows of the Damned. That one used to come in at 500 yen. But this limited edition box of Eco and Shadow for $10.40, that one has seen a price decrease. When I first moved to Japan, that was more around like the 3,000 yen mark. Here we have Castlevania Curse of Darkness, not too bad of a price there. We have Sonic Mega Collection for $64.60. We have Dororo for the PS2, which is a so-so game. I wasn't really feeling it, and I ended up selling it. But now the one thing that this location did have plenty of is fighting games, and that's across multiple platforms. Look at all these great fighting games. From SNK, Capcom, a little bit of Sammy, and then here we have R-Type Final for $35.70, the Greatest Hits version for $64.80, so quite a bit of a difference there. I'm not sure why. $11.90 for Biohazard Code Veronica, and then we have Panzer Dragoon for 3,200 yen. That's not too bad of a price, actually. Here we have Might and Magic, Day of the Destroyer with a pretty cool cover there for 6,100. We have Sylphid for 37.30. Definitely a game that I want to pick up sooner or later. Then we have Demento, which features full English language, but the menus are in Japanese, so keep that in mind. And then here we have The Thing Part 2 for $24.30, which I believe has, I believe the story is canon, and The Thing is one of my favorite movies of all time. And then here we have All Things Silent Hill for the PlayStation 2. Now, all the Silent Hill games on the PlayStation 2, they do feature full English language as well as menus, in-game menus. So that's something definitely to, keep in mind, as these are definitely going to be a lot lower than their North American counterparts. Here we have a horror game coming in at $39.40, which I've seen before, and it seems pretty interesting. And then we're going to make our way into the PS1. Now, they had quite a bit of PS1, and it's going to be no different than the PS2 in that they're going to have quite a bit of fighting games as well as shooting games here. So a lot of good stuff. And the more you dig, the more you're going to find. But here we have Rival Schools. What else do we have? We got Fist of the North Star. Now, I believe this one is a beat 'em up, and I definitely want to pick up a copy, but I'm looking for one that at least has the spine card, the Obi card. Here we have Magic Beast Warriors. Now, this is a fighting game from the looks of it, and it's one that I think got a release in North America. But here we have Marvel Superheroes for $31.40, and the fighting games just continue. Here we have Street Fighter EX Plus Alpha for $9.90, Pocket Fighters. What else do we have? Dragon Ball Ultimate Battle 22 for $10.60. And then we have another Dragon Ball game. Now, this one is actually my first import game, but I had it on the Sega Saturn, and this is not too bad of a fighter. But it does, you got to be a hardcore fan, I think, to really appreciate it. And here we have Dragon Ball Final Bout. Now, this is one that I do want to pick up as well. And then we have Gamera there for 5,400 yen, which is a hardcore on-rails shooter. We have Ray Crisis for 2,600. This is Twin B Deluxe Pack. And this one, I'm not really too sure what that one is about. But here we have Thunder Force 5, The Perfect System. This is the Greatest Hits edition for 5,400, and they also had the original for 7,680. Then we have Lone Soldier there, third-person shooter, and then we have Einhander for 3,340. So a lot of solid games here within the PS1 stacks. And then we have Cho Aniki. Now look at the craziness that's going on here. Look at this. Now, my understanding is this is a shooting game. I haven't played it myself, but it looks pretty wild. Here we have some PSP titles. We have Silent Hill Origins or Zero for 2,260. Now, this is one that I don't see all too often, so I should have picked this one up in hindsight. And then down below, we have Initial D Street Stage for 2380. One of these days, I'm going to get one of these Initial D games. And then the PS Vita section, look at all these games. A lot of these games are going to be what I believe are visual novels, but they did have this. They had Silent Hill Book of Memories for $34.90. Now, this game is a little bit polarizing, and I believe the Japanese version does have full English language support. However, I have not verified that. I just kind of read that on a forum. But definitely one that I would like to add to the collection, as I am a crazy Silent Hill fan. But here we have our disc system games. We have Kid Icarus for $31.80. What else do we have here? We have Metroid for $37.30. Then we have Mario Golf for $14.50. And then we have Zelda for $26.90. Another copy of Mario Golf for $9.30. And then this little cat game for $7.20. And then here we are with this small little mini showcase. Let's definitely have a look here. We have some amiibos coming in at $66.80. And then one's coming in at 11,800 yen. And I believe that was Monster Hunter Rise. Which, you know, I'm not really an expert on amiibos, but some of them do fetch quite a bit of a high price there. We had Captain Falco, or whatever his name is. We have Samurai Spirits 2 for the pocket for $25.50. The arcade cards in both flavors, with the more pricier one at $11.60. Rockman and Forte for the WonderSwan, and then we have Samurai Spirits for the Game Boy for $20.60, as well as Ultima there. And then we have Makaimura, or Ghouls and Ghosts Gaiden. What else do we have? R-Type DX for $46.20. I wonder how that port holds up. And then here we are with a few Game Boy Advance titles there. We had some Fire Emblem. Then we have the Goemon Collection for $59.80. We have Rockman and Forte for $21.30. I should have picked that one up, actually. And then what else do we have here? Some more Game Boy Advance titles. We have Dragon Ball King of Fighters. And then we have the manual for the Ninja Gaiden Game Gear at 8,000 yen. And then some more manuals. We got Sonic and Knuckles for $36.70. And then we have Captain America there for $9,500 for the Game Gear. And that was actually a North American game. But here we are down below, some more Super Famicom titles. Now, the one that really stood out to me is going to be Final Fight Guy. But, if you examine it a little bit closer and look at the label, it's just for the box. So that's a little bit of a tease, but that one's coming in at $43.90 just for the box. And then here we have just a random assortment of games for the Famicom and Game Boy. But yeah, not too bad. And then here we have another little mini showcase. Now, this one had some pretty good stuff, I have to admit. We have Armored Core 4 and 4 Answer. Now, I believe this is some type of guidebook. Something like that. And then we have this The Legend of Zelda. Look at this, 8,800 yen. Now, that thing actually sold a little bit after recording it. So that was I missed out on that one. I was definitely thinking about it because, that's definitely a high-end collector's item. But it's a shame, but something like that ain't going to stick around for too long. You know how it goes. And then look at this Sailor Moon cartridge there. I haven't seen that kind of cartridge before. Then we have Rockman for $41.70 and Part 6 for $33.30. We have Castlevania for the MSX for $6,630. And then Dungeon Master for the MSX as well. And then we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Part 2 for $3,090. Next to some other Kemco game. Here we have El Viento for $8,500. Bare Knuckle 3 for $11,500. The Super Shinobi 2 for $64.30. And Golden Axe 3 for $5,330. I definitely want to pick up a copy of that. Sonic and Knuckles for 8,300 yen. And then we have our Super Famicom titles for 4,080 for Turtles in Time. What else do we have? Dracula X for $62.70 next to Axelay for $61.80. And then we have Sonic Wings, and then Macross for 11,730 yen. Super Aleste there for 8,600. So some pretty heavy hitters there. Pretty impressive there, seeing some of those. And then we have some higher end or more expensive guidebooks there. It looks like we have Persona, Metal Max, and then Doki Doki Panic for 5,880 for the disc system. And then we have our Neo Geo AES titles. Look at this. Now, I was really wanting this Fatal Fury Garou Part 3 for 16,000 yen, but I decided against it because I think I could find it for at least 3,000 to 4,000 yen cheaper. And then up above, a few MSX titles there, and then we have some more AES titles. Now, Real Bout there for 19,900 yen. That's actually not too bad of a price for that one. And that one also had, that one was tempting me a bit. But here we have our 3DS, our DS, our Wii, and our Wii U, as well as GameCube section. So there's quite a bit to cover here. Now we're just going to skip the 3DS section and go into the DS. And they had quite a bit here, but we're not going to go into too much detail. But here we have Chrono Trigger for 3680. Now, if you set your system language to English, in case you have a Japanese unit, that one will boot up in English. And then we have Pokemon the Keyboard. This looks like it's the black variant, coming in at 6,330. And then we have, what do we have? Some Biohazard games, Part 2 for 5,930. And they also had Part 3 coming in at 7,580. In fact, they had them all. The only one that they were missing was Code Veronica on the GameCube. Here's Eternal Darkness for 2,200 yen. And then we have F-Zero GX for 4,480 yen. What else do we have here? Twilight Princess for 6,630. And they also had another copy that was coming in at a little bit higher price at about 7,000 and what is that? 80. And I'm not really sure what's why the difference in pricing there, but 7,080 for Tatsunoko vs. Capcom All-Star. Now this has the full roster. It's not the vanilla release, which is a bit cheaper. And then here we have Sonic and the Night or something like that for 3,070. I wonder how that game is. I don't really remember too much on its reviews, but we have Milestone Shooting Collection for the Wii. Haven't seen this one before, or at least I don't remember it, for 6,680. And it looks like it's a collection of 3 games. And then we have our Nintendo 64 action, and you're going to see a lot of the first party stuff here. A lot of the Nintendo releases, both in the loose and box form. Here we have Star Fox 64 for 1,370, 007 there for 6,100, and then Castlevania 64 for 3,410. And that one does have in-game saving. You don't need a memory card like you would for the North American version, because it was released afterwards, later. And then what do we have here? We have Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, a bunch of titles there. And then at the very bottom, we have Virtual Boy, and that's what we're going to focus on here. So let's have a closer look and see what we see. We got this virtual 3D shooting game, some Bomberman action for 1,770. It looks like they have 2 copies. And then we have Vertical Force by Hudson Soft. That one I am definitely interested in trying out. And then here we have some golf game coming in at 2,480. A lot of the stuff seems to be marked down. And then we have a Teleboxer, which this one kind of reminds me in a way of ARMS for the Switch. And I haven't played either of those games, so I wonder if they're any good. But we have Mario Tennis, that had a pretty cool cover. We have Virtual Tetris, and then some pinball game. And then here are our loose cards. And again, you're going to see a lot of the first party stuff, a lot of Capcom stuff. So let's just focus on the stuff that comes in a box. Here we have Art of Fighting for 3,700 yen. And it's kind of interesting that there's no screenshots on the back cover art there, which is kind of cool. And then we have Mega Man or Rockman Soccer next to Rockman X, coming in at 2,240, but it is missing the manual. And look at the cover art to this Might and Magic Book 3. That's a pretty gnarly cover art, as well as the map in the back, and no screenshots once again. And what do we have here? Final Fight for 4,340, which is a little bit less than what Book Off is asking for. And then we have Goemon Part 3 for 6,280. The condition looks pretty good, but it does have a little note there. A lot of this stuff has a lot of little notes, so a lot of little issues everywhere. And then we have Batman Returns for 5,610. They actually had about 2 or 3 copies of this one. And then we have Vortex. Look at this, 2,100 yen, and this is an FX-based game. So this one probably runs pretty choppy, but still, it would be kind of cool to try that one out. Here we have our loose Famicom games. We have Rockman 3. Now, all these are priced differently. We have one coming in at 1,660, 1,050, and then we have Part 4 coming in at 880, and then Part 5, 990, and then this one here is coming in at 1,020. So definitely pay close attention, as some of these are, priced differently, which is kind of odd. But 1,580 there for DuckTales, and it could be just based off a condition. But here we go with our Sega Dreamcast area section. We have Capcom versus SNK 2 there. We have Gigawing for 5,830. And again, there's going to be a lot of fighting games and a lot of like action arcade games. Actually, I was pretty sold on their their offerings for the Sega Dreamcast. 4180 there for Capcom versus SNK Pro, and then we have Third Strike with the Obi card at 3320, and then we have the Vanilla Part 3 as well as a Second Impact there. That's a collection there, and not too bad of a price, coming in at 2,000 and some change. 2280 there for Typing of the Dead, and then we have this business. I'm not really sure what that's about. And then we have KOF 99, which is actually 98, coming in at 1350, and that's going to be the greatest hits release. And yeah, there's quite a few King of Fighters games there for the Dreamcast. And we got Shenmue as well as the US version coming in at 6,080 yen, which is, the US version has a pretty cool slipcover there. And then we have this for 6,100. Now this one I haven't seen before, and it looks like some kind of racing game, futuristic racing game. But look at this name, Suzar Bazaar. Definitely a new one to me, but pretty cool to see new titles. Then we have Sorcerian there, Sega GT, the Ferrari game for 1030. We got Zombie Revenge for 2,100 yen, which actually takes place in the House of the Dead universe. And then we have Sonic Adventure 2 for 5070, but a pretty solid lineup here for the Dreamcast, 6980. And then what do we have here? The Last Blade Part 2 for 2950, and this is going to be the Playmore release version, at least of the game there. And then we have Marvel vs. Capcom 2 for 500 yen. There's probably some deep scratches there, but it probably boots up. What else do we have? We have Heavy Metal Geo Matrix. That's one that I don't see all too often as well. And I believe Capcom was behind that one. And what else do we have? Puzzle Bobble 4 for 4580. So, and then what else do we have? Code Veronica. Now this is Code Veronica X, and this is the vanilla release there for 8070. But a pretty solid lineup for the Dreamcast as well as for the Sega Saturn. We have Panzer Dragoon for 1590. And those games, as well as Part 2, were just kind of scattered all over the place. And the more you dig, the more you're going to find. That's just how it goes. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have Phantasm. I see this game all the time for 5910 there. What else do we have? Marvel Superheroes for 6880 and 6810 for Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter. So again, a lot of great fighting games here, and we're definitely going to see a lot more. Not really sure what this one is, but that's kind of a cool cover. I wonder where everybody's heading off to. We got Fighters Mega Mix, and then we got Hang On GP 95, and then some more Panzer Dragoon. What else do we have? Virtual Cop, Virtual Fighter Part 2 of each. And let's see here, we have Virtual Fighter Kids for 730, and another copy of Panzer Dragoon 2. We got Decathlete there. We got Twin B, the Deluxe Pack, Dead or Alive for 2490, Daytona USA for 570. And then we have this J-SWAT business. Now again, this is one that I haven't seen before, and it looks like it's some kind of light gun game, but I could be wrong. And it looks like it's a mixture of FMV, so that one could be a little bit of a funky title. We have Darius Gaiden for 2970, The Story of Thor for 1970, and then this fighting game Zerd for 1430, which is not very good. I used to have that one, but I ended up selling it off. And then we have Toshinden URA, and then Macross Do You Remember Love, which is a great 2D shooter. We have Daedalus. What else do we have here? Panzer Dragoon RPG for 5480. That one's slowly climbing up in price. What do we have? Sonic Jam for 4580. We got Snatcher up here. And we got, what is this? Sega Touring Car for 10,070. But I avoid that game. Bad control and really, really choppy frame rate. Even if you have the steering wheel too, that doesn't really make much of a difference. And then we have this shooter here, which I've seen before. I always forget the name, but 6460 Assault Suit Lanos 2. And yeah, just a solid lineup here for the Sega Saturn. We have, what do we have? Guardian Heroes for 5270. Now I have that one on the Xbox 360. We have more House of the Dead for 1820. We got Sonic Wings for 6970, and then Fire Pro Wrestling S. And we have Golden Axe The Duel for 2850. That's a pretty cool fighting game. And then another copy of Sonic Wings for 8020. And the other one doesn't seem to have a label, so I'm not really sure what the reason for the price difference there is. And then we have the Samurai Spirits collection, which includes Part 3 and Part 4 for 5370. And then we have Part 4, the standalone version for 2270, and more House of the Dead action. But yeah, really impressive seeing all this great Sega Saturn software here, just lining up the stacks. Alien Trilogy, that's a great one. And then 7,100 yen for Marvel vs. Street Fighter. And then Cyberbots coming in at 5930. Here we have our Sega Mega Drive titles, as well as Sega Mega CD. And I believe they had one 132X game there, which is going to be Doom. And we will have a closer look at that one. Here we have our Xbox 360, original Xbox and Xbox One titles. We have Dead Smiles for $29.50. And then we have, I believe, the limited edition there for $40.30. And then we have Mushihime-sama Futari. And then just some more great shooting action here for the Xbox 360. That thing was just loaded with great cave shooters. ESP Galuda Part 2, the black label for $66.70. And they also had Lollipop Chainsaw there. But yeah, a lot of great titles there for the Xbox. Here we have our Mega Drive titles. We have, what is that? Whip Rush. Up top, Monaco GP. We have Golden Axe for $40.80, which was cheaper at the previous mall that we were at. At Furuichi, we have Sonic 3 for $62.90, and then Sonic Spinball coming in at 5,200 yen. And I'm just shaking it there to make sure that it includes the manual. But again, that one was cheaper at the Furuichi at the Hanyu Mall. And then here we go, Doom for the Super 32X, 4,030 yen. And I really do love that cover to Doom. And the 32X version, I wonder how that one holds up. Here we have Starblade for $45.30. This is one that I definitely want to pick up for the Mega CD. I'm almost done with my Mega CD collection. I don't want too many games for it, but there are a few that I want. This is one that I have, $55.80 there for Sonic CD. Soul Feast for $3,050. And then we have the Sega Classics Arcade Collection for $960. So not too bad there on the pricing. And then directly behind, look at all these guidebooks. Now, I'm not going to go into details here, but just know that this section was pretty loaded. A lot of great stuff in here. I should have filmed more of it, but you know, filming on the phone, I was pressed for time, and mainly because of battery. The battery on the iPhone Mini 12 just drains quick. But here we have some Neo Geo Pocket titles, as well as Neo Geo CD and WonderSwan. Now here's one that I want, King of Fighters Round 2 for $42.80. I definitely enjoy the first one, so the second one can only get better. Here we have this tennis game for $47.60. Wonder how that one is. I do like those little shock boxes there. And then we have a Gunpei for $30.60. I hear this one is pretty good, a pretty good puzzle game. Now I recently sold my WonderSwan. I don't know if I'll get one again, but I definitely want to pick up Ghouls and Ghosts or Makaimura for the WonderSwan, just for the collection, because I'm a hardcore Ghouls and Ghosts fan. But here we go. We got some Neo Geo CD action here. Not too many titles, mind you. And then up above, they had the 3DO games, which again, not too many. We're not really going to go into too much detail, but they did have the Sailor Moon fighting game for $45.80. But back to the Neo Geo CD, here we have Rag Guy or Blues Journey for 8,300 yen. You know, they had a lot of King of Fighters, a lot of Fatal Fury games here, what you would expect to see. And then we have this puzzle game for $62.80. Now, the full Neo Geo library is available on the Switch, the PlayStation 4, and I believe Steam. And then we're going to make our way into the PC Engine section. Now, this section had a lot of gaps, a lot of little empty space. But I do want to say, you know, they have R-Type Complete there for $52.80. But I do want to say that the lineup was pretty solid. We have Choaniki here for $51.60. So despite all the gaps, they did have quite a bit of heavy-hitting games here. We have Super Darius for $21.30 and $25.30 there. What else do we have here? We got some Ranma action. We got Mr. Heli for $42.80. And then we have the Legendary Axe for $45.80. Now, the sequel to that game is freaking awesome. I love it. And then we have Final Soldier there. What do we have? Parodius for 7,100 yen. Now, this one, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition for $22.40. That's a pretty good price. And I totally meant to pick that one up, but I completely forgot. It's going to have to be on a different occasion, I suppose. And then we have Gunhead for 8,800 yen. And then we have, what is this? Tiger Heli. Sometimes I forget the names of these, but we have R-Type 2. And then R-Type, which is actually part 1, but they just kind of mixed it up because they couldn't fit on a Hue card. Then we had Salamander there. And then we have Samurai Ghost here, as it's known in the West. That's a great game, by the way, with a freaking awesome soundtrack. Here we have some loose Game Gear games. We got Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which is pretty standard, and then Bare Knuckle, 2 copies, 1,600 yen. And then we have some loose WonderSwan carts mixed in with DS and Game Boy Advance. So a lot of stuff to browse through this section here. But here we go, Samba de Amigo, the maracas. It's always great to see these things. They're fairly common. Here we have the flight stick for the Saturn as well as the racing wheel. Now this is kind of like the junk section. Here we have some keyboards. Now the one that's 1370, I think some of the keys may not be working, but I did open it up and there was no sun fading to be had. In fact, that thing looked pretty brand new, the keyboard. Here we have the Mario Kart 64 bundle for 4280. And then here we have the Pokemon controller coming in at 3120. And then the Hudson Soft controller coming in at 3130. And then the Dreamcast mouse for 2810. I'm kind of interested in picking that one up. But here we are with the hardware. And my goodness, let's see. Well, let's just see what we see here. 3470 for that Super Famicom, which I believe had like 2 controllers and all the cables and everything. Quite a bit of Sega Saturns. We got a fantastic N64 for 7,870 with 2 controllers, mind you. And then 13,980 for that Sega Saturn in the box, and they had quite a few in the box. Up at the top, we have some Super Famicoms and Famicoms and a Nintendo 64 coming in at 7,740 yen. And then here we have a pair of cubes with one coming in at 12,500. Got some Wii action there, and then we got the orange GameCube coming in at 5,900 yen. So yeah, not too bad. Here we have a disc system, but yeah, pretty impressed with this place, and this is probably a place that I will be coming back to. I don't know how often, but you know, at least once every few months. Here we have a top loader for 10,710 with 2 controllers and the cables. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you very soon. Ciao.